we did have a problem at first.
Like yelling at strangers.
Yelling compliments at strangers. And so we kind of tried to do it on the sly, like as we were walking by, as we had sort of passed them, hey, have a fantastic day.
You have to wonder at what point when you're playing this game, you know, especially when you end up, you know, talking to people who aren't playing, you know, what's that line between kind of, you know, being assertive and being harassing?
There was one point where we were telling knock jokes to people, and somebody else in this really obnoxious voice was like, knock knock, and I was like, oh.
We don't want to get them mugged. The goal here is not to create confrontation, but at the same time it's to really edge up against the perceptions and conceptions people have about the world they live in, not just players now, but also the other people who are in the kind of, you know, in the line of fire of the game.
If you have that sort of moment of the jarring moment, maybe it makes you think about, well, why do I not interact with people when I'm surrounded by people?
If you're designing a game in a city, you have to take into account the fact that it's a public space where the people are going to be in it, and so therefore you obviously have to take into account their livelihoods, their normal daily practices. You can't interrupt that too much.
If you watch like the New York game, one of the dynamics of the game is that when you start capturing other groups, they sort of join you, and you can end up, depending on the number of players, we had like 160 some players in New York. You'll see these large mobs of people, right? And that is a sight that's at this point in history actually almost frightening to some people, right? Large groups of people are up to no good. So there is a kind of political performance that you can choose to bring out when you play Cruel to Be Kind. But again, these groups are not meant to you know, to make it so people can't get in their buses or their subways, but rather to ask those very questions, right? And then as people are passing by them, they're bound to ask non-players about, well, what's going on? Right? What's going on here?
One of the design issues that comes up with big games is find a way to sort of integrate yourself in the space without damaging other people's experiences of it, so that you don't interact in a negative way into how people are working, in how people are going to restaurants or enjoying their evening, but to highlight that. Give them something to look at and something that they will enjoy and they will be able to participate in as audiences, but not something that will somehow force them to somehow modify their normal daily practices.